Okay, so let's start. Number 1. Numbers 1 through 15 were each written on individual pieces of paper. One number per piece, then the 15 pieces of paper were put in a jar. One piece of paper will be drawn from the jar at random. What's the probability of drawing a piece of paper with a number less than 9 written on it? Okay, so this one I would not use a calculator. So you just have to, since it's a probability question, most probability you don't really have to use one. So it says there's 15 pieces of paper. What's the probability of drawing a piece of paper with a number less than 9? So how many numbers are there less than 9? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you have like a 8 out of chance, 8 out of 15 chance. Since there's 8 numbers less than 9 that you can draw. So 8 out of 15 is the answer for this one. So it's E. Which of the following is equivalent to negative 4x to the third minus 12x to the third plus 9x squared? This one, I also wouldn't use a calculator. This one is combining like terms. So you have 2x to the x cubed terms, and you have one x squared term. So you have to combine the x cubed terms. So negative 4 minus 12, that's negative 16 x cubed. And then you can't combine the x squared term because there's no like terms. So it's just plus 9x squared. And that is J. Number 3. When x equals 2, 10 plus 3 times 12 divided by 3x equals what? This one, you can use a calculator. You don't have to, but just to make sure you don't make a mistake. But first, let's plug in x. So it says x equals 2. So wherever you see x, you're going to plug in 2. So 10 plus 3 times 12 divided by 3 times 2. Because remember 3x. 3x means 3 times x. So to plug in x, you would do 3 times 2. Okay, and then if we put this in our calculator, it would be 10 plus 3 parentheses. Don't forget the parentheses, they're very important. Divided by parentheses 3 times 2. And then you press enter. And it will give you 16. And that's B. And even if you do it by hand, what's 12 divided by 3 times 2? 3 times 2 is 6. 12 divided by 6 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6. So 10 plus 6 is 16 as well. So that's another way you can do it if you wanted to do it by hand. Okay. Number 4, what's the absolute value of 6 minus 4 minus the absolute value of 3 minus 8? This one, I would not use a calculator. So absolute value, like these are easy enough values, like you would do it faster if you just did it by hand. So absolute value, 6 minus 4. That's the distance away from 0. So 6 minus 4 is 2. The distance of positive 2 away from 0 is 2. So that's just 2. Minus the absolute value of 3 minus 8. 3 minus 8 is negative 5. The distance of negative 5 from 0 is 5 because distance can't be negative. So it would just be 5. So 2 minus 5 is negative 3. So for this one, it would be G, negative 3. Okay, the expression 4c minus 3d times 3c plus d is equivalent to what? This one, again, we wouldn't use a calculator because there's not like a way that the calculator can do this for you. You just have to use FOIL. So FOIL, you multiply the first term, so 4c times 3c, that's 12c squared. Then you multiply the outer term, so 4c times d, that's plus 4cd. Then you multiply the inner terms, negative 3d times, let me see, I can't see the numbers. Negative 3d times 3c, that's minus 9dc. And then last, so negative 3d times d, that's negative 3d squared. And if we combine the like terms, you see like CD and DC. You can also write DC as CD. So those are like terms. So now you have 12c squared. 4 minus 9 is negative 5. Negative 5CD. And then negative 3D squared. And the correct answer that matches with that is C. Okay. This one I would use a calculator right off the bat, like I'm looking at it. So, of 180 students in a college course, 1/4 of the students earned an A. So 180, 1/4 earned an A. 1/3 earned a B. The rest of the students earned a C. So how many earned a C? Okay, so for this one, I would do 180 minus 1/4 times 180, since 1/4 earned an A, plus 1/3 times 180. So we're putting all of this in parentheses, as you can see here, because we're doing 180 minus all of this. So 180 minus 1/4 of it times the 80, 180, and plus 1/3 times 180, because those are like people who earned A's and B's. And then it says how many earned a C. Well, now we have how many earned a C because it says the rest earned a C. So this one would be 75. And again, you could do this by hand if you wanted. 1/4 of 180 is 180 divided by 2 is 90, and 90 divided by 2 is 45. So 1/4 of 80 is 45. And 1/3 of 180 is 60. So 180 minus 105, because 45 plus 60, that's 105, is 75. That's how you do it by hand. But as you can see, when you do it by calculator, it just gives you the answer like right away, as long as you put it in right. Okay. The number of fish, F, in Skipper's Pond at the beginning of each year can be modeled by the equation f of x equals 3 times 2 to the x power, where x represents the number of years after the beginning of the year 2000. For example, x to 0 represents the beginning of the year 2000. X to the first represents the beginning of the year 2001, and so forth. So, how many were in the pond at the beginning of the year 2006? Well, it says like the further X gets, like it's like the years after 2000. So 2006 is how many years after 2000? It's 6 years after 2000. So we would do 3 times 2, and we would replace X. We would replace that with 6 everywhere we see X. So 3 times 2 to the X, we would say 3 times 2 to the 6. And you would just put this in your TI-84, 3 times 2, and then press this caret button, and then press 6, and then your answer is 192. Okay. Manus drove from Chicago to Baton Rouge. At 8 a.m., he was 510 kilometers from Baton Rouge. At 1 p.m., he was 105 kilometers from Baton Rouge. What's his average speed in kilometers per hour from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m.? So the average speed. So this one you would use like, I think it's rate equals distance times time. And we're looking for the average speed. Well, actually, the average speed, I feel like. If I did this like without knowing that, I would just do 510 from kilometer 510 kilometers from Baton Rouge. At first he's 510 away, and then he's 105 away. That means he traveled 405 away. Or like he traveled 405. And how many hours? So 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's like 9, 10, 11, 12, 1. That's 5 hours. Okay. So if you traveled 5 hours, or if you traveled 405 kilometers in 5 hours, then it's asking for like the average speed. So in kilometers per hour, 405 divided by 5. You can put this in your calculator. That's 81. So that's his average speed, like per hour. And then that's basically the same as doing this. Distance equals rate times time. So you would just do the distance is 405 kilometers, like we found out, because he goes from 500 to 105. And then over the time, which was 5 hours, and then you would also get 81 kilometers per hour. Okay. Number 9. In the figure shown below, well, I can already tell that actually, maybe I will need to use a calculator. Let's see. In the figure shown below, E and G lie on AC, and D and F lie on AB. DE and FG are parallel to BC. So this and this are parallel. What's the length of AC in feet? Okay. So if these are parallel lines, well, first we know this angle is congruent no matter what. So let's write that. So this angle is the same in all the triangles. This angle is also the same in all the triangles because it tells you like that they're parallel. So this angle. That means that all the angles in all the triangles are the same, which means that they're similar triangles. Okay, so now it's asking like what's the length of AC in feet? Well, we know the length of AD is 8, and we know the length of AB because AC is like this big triangle. So we know the length of AB is 8 plus 7 plus 6. That's 21. So 8 over 21. So that ratio is going to have to be the same for the big side of the small triangle AED to the big side of the big triangle ACB. Or yeah. So the big side of the small triangle is AE, so that's 16. The big side of the big triangle, you don't know what that is, so you can do x. Now we're going to cross multiply, and that's going to be 8x equals 16 times 21. So 16 times 21, put that in your calculator. That's 336. And then divide by 8 on both sides. That's 42. So the length of AC is 42. Okay. Katarina runs 15 miles in 2.5 hours. What's the average number of minutes it takes her to run 1 mile? So we're going to do the same thing. Distance equals rate times time. So 15 equals rate times time. It says what's the average number of minutes. So we're just going to convert 2.5 hours to minutes. So how do you convert hours to minutes? 2.5 hours over 1 times 1 hour, 60 minutes. And we're trying to cancel out hours. That's why we're putting hours in the denominator, because we're canceling that variable out and saying minutes. 2.5 times 60, that's 150 minutes. So the time is 150 minutes if you were to convert it to minutes. Okay, so 15 equals rate times time. Okay, wait, I must have did something wrong. 15 divided by 2.5 hours. Did I do something wrong for this one?
You could definitely check it by plugging in the answer and then going backwards. Katrina runs 15 miles in 2.5 hours. What
Oh, wait, wait,
average
wait,
number
wait.
of minutes? Please.
That's
So
6
convert
miles
it to
per hour.
minutes. Yeah.
So 1 hour
Yeah, but convert it to minutes.
over 60 minutes.
Cool.
I did convert it to
Okay.
minutes.
I didn't see you convert to 2.5 miles. 2.5 hours is just a minute. Let me tell you, because that would be how many minutes? 150.
Yeah, that is 150 minutes.
I don't see it. You might have did it in your head.
No, I wrote it down
And you wrote it.
earlier.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. I just didn't see
because
it.
I did it.
You did it. I just didn't
Oh,
see it. It's fine.
Because I know the answers. Well, like I know the answer is 10, but I'm trying to see how to show that with my work. Because
Yeah,
the equation that I used.
it's 115 minutes, 150 minutes over 15 miles, right? And then you divide it. That's what I would do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how you do it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I know what I did. I was doing it right. I just didn't flip the denominator because I put 15 miles
Mm.
over.
Yeah, don't write it again. I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I was just trying to show them the
Uh,
work.
uh,
So 15 miles over 150 minutes. So that's, if you simplify that, that's 1 mile over 10 minutes. So I got confused because I put 1 over 10, but if you just flip it, it's 10 minutes per mile. Okay.
Wouldn't
A
it
bag
be,
contains 8 red marbles, 9 yellow marbles, and 7 green marbles. How many additional red marbles must be added to the 24 marbles already in the bag so that the probability of randomly drawing a red marble is 3 over 5? Okay. So there's 8 red marbles, 9 yellow, 7 green. And it tells you that there's 24 in the bag. So you don't need to count. Like, you don't need to add these all up because it tells you that there's 24. So how many must be added so the probability of drawing a red marble is 3 over 5? So you have 8 over 24 right now because it's 8 red marbles out of 24. And you're trying to make that 3 over 5. So 8 plus what? So you're adding marbles. So if you're you're adding marbles to both the numerator and the denominator. You're adding red marbles. So 8 plus x over 24 plus x. This is like how many marbles you're adding equals 3 over 5. Then you would cross multiply. 40 plus 5x equals 72 plus 3x. And after that, you just have to solve the equation. And I would use the calculator for this. So you have to subtract 40 on both sides. You get 5x equals 32 plus 3x. And then 2x equals 32. If you subtract 3x on both sides, that means 16 equals x.
can you go over that one
You
more
want to check
time?
this? You can just like do the same thing, like 8 plus x over 24 plus x. If you weren't unsure about that answer, you can do 8 plus 16 in the calculator divided by 24 plus 16. That's 0.6, and that's equal to 3/5. But if you really, really wanted to make sure, math frac, that's 3/5. Okay. In a standard XY coordinate plane, the point 2 to 1 is the midpoint of CD. Point C has coordinates 6 to 8. So what's the coordinates of point D? So the point 2 to 1 is the midpoint of CD. Point C has coordinates 6 to 8. Okay. So the midpoint is the average, like between the 2 points. So to find the midpoint, you do the average of the x values and the average of the y values. But this is kind of saying like in reverse. So you have the midpoint and you have one of the endpoints. So now you have to see like to make an average of 2, what does the other midpoint have to be? To make an average of 1, what does the other midpoint have to be? So how you would write that like algebraically is like 6 plus what over 2 equals 2. And then the same thing, 8 plus what over 1 or over 2 equals 1. Okay, so now you solve these equations. 6 plus y equals 4. 6 plus negative 2. And then 8 plus what equals 2, because you have to multiply this by 2 on both sides. Negative 6. So that means the x value, x equals negative 2, and the y value, y equals negative 6. Okay. At his job, the first 40 hours of each week that Thomas works is regular time. Any additional time that he works is overtime. Thomas gets paid $15 per hour during regular time. During overtime, Thomas gets paid 1.5 times as much as he gets paid during regular time. So if he works 46 hours in 1 week and gets $117 of deductions taken out of his pay for this week, after the deductions are taken out, how many of Thomas's pay for this week remains? So it says the first 40 hours is regular time. So he gets paid $15 an hour for regular time. So 40 times 15, that's how many dollars that he gets paid for regular time. And it says he worked 46 hours. So that's $600 for the first 40 hours. Now, all the rest is overtime, and he gets paid 1.5 as much. So 1.5 times 6 times 15. Put that in your calculator. That's 22.5. So for the 6 hours he worked overtime, he gets 22.5 per hour. So we're going to do 22.5 times 6. That's $135. Okay. So $600 plus $135, that's $735, but don't get tricked. E is not the answer because it says he gets $117 taken out in deductions for his pay this week. So we have to take that out. 735 minus 117. That's $618. So it's D. Okay. 14. At Sweet Stuff Fresh Produce, the price of a bag of grapes depends on the total number of the bags purchased at one time, as shown in the table below. In 2 trips to Sweet Stuff this week, Janelle purchased 3 bags of grapes on Monday and 4 bags of grapes on Wednesday. How much money would Janelle have saved if she had instead purchased 7 bags of grapes on one trip on Monday? Okay, so when she purchased 3 bags, the price per bag was $3 according to this chart. So 3 times 3, that's $9. When she purchased 4 bags on Wednesday, the price was 2.80 per bag. So if I say 4 times 2.80 in my calculator, that's $11.2. So $20.20. That's what she spent. Now, what if she purchased all 7 bags in one trip? Well, when you purchase 7 bags, it's $260 per bag. So $260 times 7. That's 18.2. So instead of spending $20.20, she would have spent $18.20. So let's subtract that. And then she would save $2. So it's J. Okay, 15. What is 3% of 4.4 times 10 to the fourth? Okay, so you can actually just put this in your calculator. So you can do 0.03, because that's 3%, times 4.4, 4.14, times 10 caret to the fourth power. That's 1242, 12,042. So that's the answer to that one, A. What value satisfies this equation? This one, you would just, first you would distribute, and I don't think you would have to use your calculator, but let's see. So negative 12x plus 15 equals 2 minus 10x. So we're going to combine like terms. So we're going to put negative 12x. We're going to subtract 2 on both sides. Negative 12x plus 13, if we subtract 2 on both sides, equals negative 10x. And then if you add 12x on both sides plus 12x, you get 13 equals 2x. And if you divide by 2 on both sides, you get x equals 13 over 2. And you can plug that into a calculator if you want to check your work, but that's most like 90% of the time, if you see the answer that you got in the answer choices, that's the correct answer. Okay. The right triangle ABC shown below, the given lengths are in millimeters. What's the value of sine A? You really don't need to know that they're in millimeters, but you can if you want. But what's the value of sine A? This one you need to know SOHCAHTOA, so the trig ratios, I guess. So what is sine? Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So it says sine of A. So we have to make sure we're doing this from the perspective of A. So the opposite of A is 7. The hypotenuse of A is 9. The hypotenuse stays the same for both of them. So 7 over 9, that would be sine A. So that's 7 over 9. 18, you can put this in your calculator, and it will give you the answer. So 27 over 64 to the negative, make sure you use the negative sign, 2 over 3 power. It's going to give you this. You don't really know what that is, but if you press math and then you press number 1, frac, it's going to give you the answer, 16 over 9. Okay. Lodo begins at his back door. He walks 8 yards east, so let's do never eat soggy waffles. So he walks 8 yards east. Then he walks 6 yards north. Then he walks 12 yards east. Then he walks 5 yards north. If he walked directly, how many yards less would he walk? So first we're just going to add all of these up. So 8 plus 6 plus 12 plus 5. That's how many yards he actually walked. 31. Okay. How many yards less would he walk if he walked directly?
Your call has been forwarded.
You're going to, basically it's asking you to do the Pythagorean theorem. So this is a triangle. So how many yards north did he walk? He walked 11 yards north. How many yards east did he walk? He walked 20 yards east. So the sides are 11 and 20. So we're going to do 11 squared plus 20 squared. And we're going to do the square root of that. That's 22. So instead of walking 31, he would have walked 22. Or 22.8. So if I do 31 minus, if I go up and highlight that, and press enter, that's going to copy it into this. That's about 8 yards. So he would have walked about 8 yards less if he walked directly instead of walking like up and down, up and down.
How do you know it was a triangle?
Okay. For a given set of data, the standard score is given by, the standard score corresponding to the raw score is given by, I'm just going to say z because I don't know what that is. Z equals x minus u over O, where u is the mean of the set and O is the standard deviation. Okay. So this one, we just have to plug in some stuff. So the raw score x, that's what we're trying to find. So x equals, well, it tells you, oh wait, 2 equals, it tells you that z is 2, and then it tells you x, you're trying to find x, but it tells you that u, that's 78. And it tells you that the O looking thing is 6. So all you have to do is plug all that in. And then if you solve this, you would get 12 plus 78. And 12 plus 78, that's equal to 90. So that means the raw score is 90 when Z is 2. Okay. In the figure below, A, B, C, and D lie on a circle centered at O. Which of the following does not appear in the figure? Okay. So this one is asking, like, what type of triangle does not appear in the figure? So let's see. It says equilateral triangle for B. We can cross that out because, well, this is 60. Okay, acute triangle. Acute triangle is when all the angles are acute, and we know ABC, all the angles are acute. Isosceles triangle. This is equal to this. And
It said Stevie had a question.
oh, what's your question, Stevie?
It was for
Oh,
the
that's why I can't
barn,
hear. Wait, let me turn my volume up. Okay, ask again.
the barn one,
Yeah.
how you walk north and I was just wondering how you determined it would be a triangle.
Oh, so let me write this more clearly. So the reason you know it's a triangle, well, you didn't really determine it was going to be a triangle. It's like when you're walking directly. Okay, so let's see. If we look at the compass, north, east, soggy waffles. Okay. He's walking north and he's walking east. So on a compass, these two are perpendicular to each other, north and east. Because he's walking up and he's walking sideways. And that naturally like forms like this, right? Do you get that part?
Yes.
To find the distance between this point and this point, you can draw this line. And that's how you got the triangle. To find the direct distance.
That makes sense.
So then after that, I just did the Pythagorean theorem to find this distance.
Got it.
Okay, but for number 21, this one, this is a radius, this is a radius, this is a radius, this is a radius. Okay, so these are both isosceles triangles. So you can cross that out. You can tell this is literally a right triangle right here. You can cross that out. Acute triangle is where all the angles are acute. That's why I crossed this out, because if this is an equilateral triangle, then you know like all the angles are acute. So now you only have one. And a scalene triangle is when all of the sides are not equal to each other. And this one, all the sides are equal to each other. This one, two of the sides are the same, which means like if two of the sides are the same, then that means that that's wrong. Like, because all the sides have to be different in a scalene side triangle. Oh, but wait, before I move on, do you guys understand like why I know like this is an equilateral triangle? Oh, I'll just explain it.
Yeah.
It's acute. It has to be equilateral, right?
No.
Uh-uh.
So this angle is 60 degrees. So, and these two sides are the same because you know that they're the radius. So
Do it in a different color.
these two sides are the same because you know that this is the radius of the circle. So this is just a rule in geometry when the sides are the same, like corresponding sides, like the angles are the same. So this is equal to this. So if these two angles are the same, then this is 60 degrees. And then 60 plus 2 times whatever the angles are, I'll just put x. You know all the angles add up to 180. So if we just solve for x, we are good 180 minus 60 because you have to subtract 60 on both sides. That equals 120. And your new equation is 120 equals 2x. And if you divide by 2 on both sides, because you're multiplying by 2, you have to divide by 2 instead. That's 60 equals x. So that means this is 60, this is 60. And you can use like the same property. Like if all of these are 60, then like it works both ways. So when you see this, it means this. When you see this, it means this. Like that's exactly like how you would write it if you were doing a proof in geometry. So when you see 60 and 60, you can do like this is equal to this. And then now you have like all of them are equal. Do you get that?
Yes.
Yeah. If all the sides are equal, all the angles are equal.
Yeah.
Because if it's 60 and the other one is 60, then the last angle has to eat or add up to 180. So then all of them will be 60. So all of them are equal.
Yeah. So equal angles equals equal sides. Yeah.
Okay.
And also,
Is that other rule only for circles, where like all parts are equal? Like so, if the
no. So if you
works
just had,
triangles,
yeah, if you had like a regular triangle, like for example, this right triangle right here, the radius, both of these sides are equal because they're radius. So you know that that's a 45, 45, 90 because you know these have to be equal. This is an isosceles triangle. So if the sides are equal, then the angles have to be equal. So if you do 180 minus 90, that's 90. And you have to divide that by 2 because these two are equal. That's 45. So this is a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So a 45, 45, 90, that's an isosceles triangle. The equilateral triangle is also an isosceles triangle. So that's why an isosceles triangle gets canceled out. So that works for all triangles. Like if the angles are equal to each other, then the sides are going to be equal. So you can remember this picture. Like, oh, that's a bad picture. I might need to get some help from the shapes. Oh. 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 Okay. Okay. By the way, the lines mean that they're congruent. That's what that means. Okay. So just remember this. And it goes the other way around. So maybe I'll draw 2 arrows. Okay. What's the slope of the line in standard xy coordinate plane that is parallel to x plus 5y equals 9? So in order to find the slope of the line, I'm just going to put this in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. So we're trying to get y by itself. So we're going to subtract x on both sides. That's 5y equals negative x plus 9. And then we're going to divide by 5 on both sides. That's negative 1x over 5 plus 9 over 5. So the slope right here is negative 1 over 5. So in a parallel line, the slope is going to be the same. So this would be negative 1 over 5 as well. If it said perpendicular, then the slope would be like the opposite reciprocal. So perpendicular, it would be like 5, because you would have to make it negative 5 over 1, and then you would have to multiply it by negative 1, because it's the opposite reciprocal, and you would get 5. But that's if it was perpendicular, but this one just says parallel, so it's easier. It's just the same. Okay. Given that y equals x over x minus 1, and x is greater than 1, which of the following is a possible value of y? Okay. So we can just plug in for this one. So it says x is greater than 1. Immediately, I would think, okay, so let's see if x is 2. So if I do 2 divided by 2 minus 1, I would get 2. If I did 3 divided by 3 minus 1, I would get 1.5. And that's gonna like keep getting lower, but it's not gonna get negative, and it's not gonna get to 0, because I don't think you can divide anything by something to get 0 unless you're dividing 0 by something and it says x is greater than 1. So you know the y can't be 0. You know that y can't be negative. So actually, I'm not going to circle it. I'm going to cross it out. So now you're in between 1.9 and 0.9. Let's see. Can y get that small? Let's see. Because I think it's just going to get closer and closer to 1, but I don't think it's going to pass 1. That's my hypothesis. Oh, maybe. That's actually true. You can just do this in Desmos and it will give you the graph, so you can just check. But what I was showing. Y is going to get closer and closer to 1, but it's never going to pass 1. And I think that's what this graph is about to show. Because if x was 1, then, well, it says x is greater than 1. But if x was 1, then you would have x over 0. So you can't get to 1 because it would be undefined at that point. But I'll show you on the graph too. X divided by x minus 1. Oh, I don't, wait, let's see. I don't think Desmos can show it. Because
You
I
have
don't,
to put the underscore for the X or no?
no, I think they don't, like well, like they won't show you the actual point, but they'll, wait, let's see.
I think,
Oh, you have to zoom in
okay.
really
I was
close.
just gonna say they should show you that.
But like, as you can see, like, wait, let's make this bigger. How do I put it? So you can see like the closer and closer you get to 1, it's never gonna like reach 1.
What about the other
Like
side?
even though it looks like it reaches 1, and then you have to zoom in really close for Desmos. And the same thing here. It's gonna go, it's gonna go. And by the way, we're looking at the y-axis, not the x-axis. So it's gonna, this is 1 right here. That's where we're looking at. It's gonna go, it's never gonna like reach 1. Like as close as you get, it will never reach 1. It's just gonna be like always a little bit greater than 1. And if it can't reach 1, like 1 is like, I guess like kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
what's a possible value?
If X
But
is
either
greater
of
than
these are a possible value though. Oh, if x is greater than 1
mm-hmm.
though. So you have to use this one.
Mm-hmm.
The,
The right side.
yeah, you have to use the right side.
So it's 1.9.
Yeah, so that's how you would do that one. Just use Desmos. And then you would just have to know how to interpret the graph. So did did anyone have any questions on that? Because I know I was like not really explaining it. I was like kind of going
Um,
through this.
Hi. If it says like x is greater than 1, then shouldn't we just eliminate all the other ones that are under 1?
Um, no, because that might not work because it says what's a possible value of y, so you don't care.
Oh, whoopsies.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the different one. Okay.
Okay. 24, the set of all positive integers that are divisible by 15 and 35 is infinite. What's the least positive integer? in this set. So like least positive, it's asking like what's the lowest integer that's divisible by 15 and 35. Okay, so 5 is not divisible by 15 or 35. It's literally under. 50 is not divisible by 15 and 35. I think 105 is though, but we can go to our calculator and check. That's 7 divided by 35 is 3. So that's the least positive integer that's divisible by 15 and 35. So for this one, you would just like, well, obviously it's not 5 because that's under both of them. 35, it's not obviously not divisible by 50 because 35 times 2 is 70. Or 50 is not divisible by 35 because, like I said, 35 times 2 is 70. So you can't like get a whole number. So you would just, after that, you would just check on the calculator and see, like over here, if you get a whole number, it's divisible. If you don't, then it's not divisible. Okay. In triangle ABC shown below, the measure of angle A is 58 degrees, and AB equals A is congruent to AC. What's the measure of C? So if AB is congruent to AC, what did we just learn? We learned that these two, if these two sides are congruent, then the angles that are like opposite from them, B and C, are congruent. So 180 minus 58. Do that in your calculator. That's 122. And then the angles are congruent, so we're going to divide by 2. That's 61. Oh. Divided by 2 equals 61. So the answer for this one is 61 degrees. Should I do the whole test or should I do 30? Okay. 26. About 1.48 times 10 to the 8th power square kilometers is of Earth's surface is land. The rest, about 3.63 times 10 to the 8th square kilometers, is water. If a returning space capsule lands at a random point on Earth's surface, which of the following is the best estimate of the probability that the space capsule will land in water? Okay, so 1.48 times 10 to the 8th, that's land. 3.63 times 10 to the 8th, that's water. Since these are both times 10 to the 8th, I'm not even gonna like plug 10 to the 8th in my calculator, or else it's gonna give me either an error because it's too big, or it's just gonna be bad. Okay. If a returning space capsule lands at a random point on Earth's surface, what's the probability it will land in water? So this one, we're going to do part over whole. So the whole Earth's surface is 1.48 plus 3.63. That's 5.11. And then water. So water, it says it's 3.63. So we're going to do 3.63 over 5.11. That's 71%. So it would be G. And the reason I didn't include 10 to the 8th is because, let's see if I can show you an example. Oh, it actually doesn't do it. So you can include it if you want, but sometimes if the power is too big, like if I say like, it would just give you this. And that's not bad. Like, that literally just means when you see 3.63 times e to the 32, it literally just means 3.63 times 10 to the 32th power. So, like, and e is like kind of like 10. But that's pointless because it's just giving you the same answer. So, there's no point in really doing that. Okay. On the first 7 statistics tests of the semester, Jamal scored 61, 76, 79, 80, 80, 84, and 91. The mean, median, and mode of his scores were 79, 80, and 80. On the 8th statistics test, he scored 90. How the mean, median, and mode of all 8 of his scores compares the mean, median, mode of his first 7 scores. Okay, so the mean is the average. The median is like kind of like the number that's in the middle of everything. And the mode is the number that appears most. So if he scores a 90 on his next one, how does the mean, median, mode change? The mean would be greater because he's usually scoring like bad grades. He only scored like 191. So if you add a 90 to that, then the mean would be greater. So we can cross A out. Okay. The mode. And the reason I'm doing the mean and the mode first is because the mode, those are both like really easy to do. So the mode, let's just see what does he score the most. 80. Yeah, he scores 80 the most. Okay, so him scoring a 90 is not going to change that he scores 80 the most. So we can say that the mode is going to be equal. So we need a greater mean and an equal mode. And the only one that has that is C and E. So now we have to decide, is the median going to be greater or is the median going to be equal? And if you just do, the median is 79. So let's see, if we put these in order, which they already put it in order for us, let's just add a 90 right here. Cross, 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 cross. Okay. And the median would stay the same because since we have two values in the middle, like, of the set, it would just be like 80 plus 80 divided by 2. That's 160 divided by 2, which is just 80. So the median would actually just stay the same. So it's greater, equal, equal. Okay. The solid rectangular prism shown below was built by alternating congruent black cubes and white cubes such that two cubes of the same color have at most one edge touching. What is the total number of white cubes that were used to build the prism? Okay, so if we yeah, I feel like we can just count this. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So there's 3 rows of 3 right cubes and 3 rows of 4 white cubes, I think. Okay. And then there's like And it's the same for the black cubes. So it's basically like half of the cubes are white, half of them are black. So if I just saw how many rows are there, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 21. Yeah, so I think it's just 105. Okay, one side of square ABCD has a length of 12 meters. A certain rectangle whose area is equal to the area of ABCD has width of 8 meters. Okay, so ABCD is a square, so the area is 144. If there's a rectangle that has a side of 8 and a side of x, we're trying to see 8 times what equals 144. Well, we could just do 144 divided by 8. What is that? That's 18, so it's 18. That's the answer. Okay, the average of a list is 92. A new list has the same first 3 numbers as the original list, but the fourth number in the original list is 40, and the fourth number in the new list is 48. What is the average of the new list? So, if the average, okay, this is how I would approach average questions. If the average is 92, then, and it's 4 numbers, then let's just say all the numbers were 92. So I would just do 92 times 4. So that means if the average is 92, then all of the numbers have to add up to 368. Okay. And let's say one of the numbers was 40. So if the average was, okay, let's see. If we subtract 40 from that, then that would be 328. And so now we removed 40 from like, okay, we removed 40 from the like total sum that the numbers had to be. And instead of 40, we're going to add 48. So we're replacing a number. And 328 plus 48, that's 376. And now we're going to divide that by 4 because we replaced 40 with 48. That's 94. So the answer for this one is 94. Because what we did was we said, oh, all these numbers have to add up to 368. One of them is 40, so we can subtract 40. Then instead of 40, we're going to have 48. And then after that, what's the new average? Well, you have to divide the sum of all those numbers divided by 4. And that's how you would get 94. Oh. Well, that was the last question anyway. So luckily, the iPad died just in time. But does anyone have any more questions that you want to go over, or like just questions in general? Was it helpful? Did you guys do good following along?
Yeah.
Okay, are you gonna get a 36 on the math in April?
Yes.
Edwin?
Hello?
Yeah, are you gonna get a 36 on the math in April?
Yeah.
Caleb?
Realistically, I
Yes.
don't know.
Well,
I'm gonna get at least a 30 though.
okay. Tyler?
I'm aiming for it, but I don't know if I'm gonna get it, but I'm aiming for it.
Okay. Well, everyone believe in yourself. I believe you can get a 36. But yeah, I'll see you guys maybe tomorrow. I don't know if you come to Black Ivy, but that's it for today. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.